Hey, this is your weekly Lake of the Ozarks fishing report, brought to you by Jamesdale Guide Service, Crackgator Bait Company. Boy, not a whole lot's changed this week. Water level remains 659.4 something, so it hasn't changed a whole lot, even though we've gotten a lot of rain. So I expect it to come up some here. As far as current, they're like 1,400 cubic foot per second is about the norm. So we're really not running a whole lot of water. But we did have 6-8 inches of rain just west of it. So I'm sure some of it's going to come into Truman and then Nangwas and work its way down. So I don't know. It may spark a little more generation if that water's coming up a whole lot. But not a whole lot's changed there. I guess probably the biggest water change would be temperature. We were running, oh boy, upper 80s, for a while, and but this rain, it'll drop it down. So we're down in the low 80s, yesterday. So, that'll change things. That'll get fish moving. It'll get them active. It'll get them shallow. They'll remain shallow. Sometimes, while it's like it cools off a little bit. It just kind of moves them around when things change that drastic. Boy, the fishing, it's about the same for the last couple of weeks. Few things changing, few things getting different. Our shallow bites starting to work pretty well. Just flipping a half-ounce Crackgator Zapper jig and just trailing it up with either like one of our muskrats, Crackgator muskrat, or this D-bomb, or say a sweet beaver. I just like a bait like that. I call them glide baits. When you flip them in there, they skip, they slide real easy, and they just kind of slide down, kind of look like a shad. Just seems to work real well. When you're flipping. A half-ounce jig on that. The brush bite's getting pretty good. It's coming on. It's getting better and better as the current has went away. Basically, they'll tend to relate more to brush or round brush. We're just throwing the same old standard, say a 10-inch power bait, power worm, black and blue flake, tequila sunrise, motor oil, if you can find those. And I'm just rigging it on a 3/8 ounce, bullet head. And I always like to put that little glass bead, between my weight and my hook. It clicks, makes a little noise, kind of protects that, you can hear it. It protects that knot, from getting hit a whole lot. So, that's just a good standard Texas rig with your 17-pound fluorocarbon is how I like to throw it on a good old standard Lew's reels. 7 foot 3 rod, fairly heavy rod on something like that. And you're just going to want to drag that bait along till you feel some different rocks or maybe some brush, and just kind of work it through that, let it lay in there, kind of let it soak in that brush sometimes. And that'll generate you some bites. As far as if it's real thick brush, I like throwing a wheezy jig, just a 5/8 ounce wheezy jig, trailed up with either that Strike King Rage Tail, or again like this the Crackgator Muskrat. You can put brush hogs on it, bigger baits. Just kind of experiment, but I like the wheezy jig. It's got that heavy weed guard, and it'll come through that brush a lot easier. You can crawl it through there, let it go down in the center of it, work it back up through there, and it'll come through them, through the branches and stuff real well. And then also it works good, like if you want to work, if you see these fish are suspended on top of these brush, you can swim that jig. Get to where that brush is and pull it back up and just swim it on top of that, over the top of that brush, almost like a crankbait. But with a jig, you can let it go down 20 foot, 25 foot, where you may not get down there with a crankbait. You can use a jig just like you would a crankbait. Just let it go down there and swim it. Just swim that jig and pop it, let it, kind of maybe go down and tip that brush a little bit, kind of get a reaction. A lot of times that'll get them fish to react if they're really not active. So, try swimming a jig. Just a 5/8 ounce wheezy, seems to work very best, the best for me. It's not too heavy, obviously it's not too light. It's just the right size. But throw that on 17, 20-pound fluorocarbon on a good Lew's reel and a good quality rod. you know, with the last couple of days, we've had some clouds. Next week's going to be a little cloudy. It's cooled down. So the topwater bite continues to be decent, you know, kind of more early on low cloud days, right in the evening. And we've been catching some fish just like up against some seawalls. You know, the water's at a summer pool. So that means on most of your seawalls, you're going to have anywhere from 2 to 4.5 foot on the seawalls. And them bass like to get right up against some seawalls, feed on shad or feed on bluegill up in there. And you can run a topwater in the morning, you know, chug bug, a spook, the gunfish, buzzbait, you know, the big buzzbait, the 3/4 ounce head knocker buzzbait works real well. You know, just change it up with your topwaters until you see what they're wanting. And that's kind of main lake, secondary, anywhere you got some decent water on the seawalls. You want to try that. Also in the back in the shallows, we're flipping those jigs, like I said, but also running topwaters. You know, the same topwaters. Just kind of experiment way in the backs in shallow water, say 4 or 5 foot or less, and work them baits right along them shallow docks. And all these patterns right now, I don't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on the lower end, up the Gravois, Niagara's, way up the Osage, Glaze. The patterns are all the same everywhere right now. You just kind of got to experiment and see what's working best in that general area. But pretty much all these baits I talked about are producing right now. Obviously, you know, every week this is just, I might as well start off with the Shaky Pro Head, the 1/4 ounce, with a little bigger Zoom finesse worm, mag finesse. That's just from now till October is just a great bait. This week, I guess a different bait we've been playing with a lot, especially a lot on guide trips, is a bait I'm not real used to throwing it, but I'm really taking a liking to it, is just a drop shot. You know, it's more of a finesse bait. One thing I'll point out, like on this Lou's All-American rod, it's got the keeper, the bait keeper down below the handle. So I don't know if it's designed for this, but I call it a drop shot rod, because you can hook this little drop shot back here, okay, instead of this being flopping around getting tangled up, or you hook your hook up on the eye, or hook your hook back on that keeper. You use this to just slide your line and that drop shot in there, and it holds that bait perfectly, and it keeps it from getting lined up. You know, you twist your line over there, you're good to go. You're not going to be twisted up everywhere. So that I'm running 20 to 30 pound braid, then I'm putting a good long leader on there, and then this rig is, I don't know if there's an easier rig to throw. You've got your weight on the bottom, okay, and then you've got I guess you'd call that your tag line off of your hook, and you can set that at 18 inches, 2 foot, 4 foot, whatever you want to do, and then you just nose hook you a little finesse worm. This is just a little 4-inch watermelon red Zoom finesse word is all that is, worm. And you take that and you nose hook it. Okay, so when I'm saying like that, you just come in about a 1/2, 5/8, go through your worm, and then hook it through there like that. So then you see what you got. You got the weight on the bottom. You got this worm just up here. When them fish ain't necessarily laying on the bottom, they're kind of suspended, a little more active. This is extremely productive. I mean, we're catching a lot of fish on trips with it, and I'm really playing with it, you know, catching some good fish. And you know, the drop shot, in case you're not familiar with it, I know a lot of guys are, they've got a drop shot weight, they actually call it, like Bullet Weight makes them. There's several different companies make them, and all it is you've got your weight. I know it's gonna be a little hard to see, and they got a little wire, I guess you'd call it line keeper. It comes up and gets real tight. You just run your line through it, pull it up tight, you're done. Okay, those can get a little expensive. I'm not sure it's necessary to use one of these. They're very handy, but I'll tell you what, I'll be honest, I've been using just a big old, just a split shot, just a cheapo Eagle Crawl split shot, number 2 size. You know, you just open that up, put it on your line wherever you want it, and squeeze it. You're done. You're ready to go. You know, that's actually what I have on right here. This is probably a 3/8 ounce quarter, 5/16, 3/8, whatever. But that worked really well, really cheap. The hooks, I like the number 4/0. These Eagle Claws they're really coming around on the hooks. This is just a little, I call it a sickle hook, 4/0 billfish hook, pretty cheap, and you can see it's about perfect for that worm. It just lets it work real freely. But this bait here, points, bluffs, back in the shallows, especially in the shallows. You know, a lot of places you wouldn't expect to throw a drop shot, but you just throw that bait out there, let it go to the bottom. Your weight's on the bottom, and you just pull up and keep that line tight. So you're a direct line, there's no slack, and you just drag it or bounce it and let that weight stay on the bottom. Your worm's up here bouncing around. It's extremely productive. It'll catch a lot of fish, and it'll catch some good fish. So if you haven't messed with drop shot, try that. It's really come on really good for me the last, I don't know, few weeks. Been experimenting with it, talking to other guys that fish it a lot, you know, other guides that use it a lot. But it's a good productive weight or technique to use. So I don't know, give that a try. Man, other than that, you know, not a whole lot's changed, but you know, they're getting more in the brush. So try to find you some brush, main lake points, main lake stuff, halfway back, you know, brush piles. I'd say from 8 to 20, 25 foot even. But just try to find you know where it seems like, you know, is productive brush piles. You know, the drop shot, you know, I use that robo worm is good, but just a little zoom finesse worms real good. Flipping shallow, that 10-inch worm, like I said, and then our swamp bug senior, a big piece of plastic. Flipping that can really get some good bites. Brush hogs, you know, that's one of the deals you just kind of got to experiment and see. You know, if you're seeing them big shad back in the shallows, flip you something big. You know, it's pretty basic. You know, just follow what they're eating. Man, other than that, that's about all I got. Other than one thing I'll touch on this week is knowing boating laws and rules while you're boating. It doesn't matter what body of water. You know, these lights on these boats, they serve a purpose, and they serve an extremely important purpose. They're just not on there to look pretty. You know, you've got green, you got red, you got white, and they're on there for a purpose. And just look it up. Go on the internet, look it up in a book, and know the rules and the laws of boating and boating etiquette. And if you're approaching a boat head on, which direction you should go. If you're approaching a boat that's coming at you, you know, broadside, say on port side, you know, automatically, you know, you go to starboard side, and they should know that too. Not everyone out there knows it. Not everyone out there obeys by it. But if you're approaching a boat, you need to take the right precautions and really pay attention and take the right approach to passing a boat or who gives way. There's a lot of things out there that, man, if everyone would pay attention to it and know the laws, we could prevent maybe some accidents down here. You know, we don't need them anywhere. Nothing good comes about it. You know, the white light, you know, that tells you it's the back of the boat. You know, you see a red light, you know this boat's coming at you port side. You know, you go to the right. You know, the opposite way, you go to the left. You just know what's going on. It's similar to the traffic laws. Right has the right of way, and they go, you know, so just look it up. Take a couple minutes. It only takes a couple minutes, and look it up and see which way you're supposed to be approaching a boat, passing a boat, who gives way. That's an extremely important thing, especially on the Ozarks, where we've got a lot of traffic down here, and it's important to know these things, you know, for yourself, for everyone else. You know, it's just, boy, I just can't stress that enough. You know, just be careful. Just be careful out there and do everything you can to make your day out fishing a fun one, a pleasurable one, and without incident, I guess is what I'm getting at. So other than that, guys, that's man, that's about all I got. So come on down. The fish are still biting. It's hit and miss. Pretty consistent in the morning, pretty consistent in the evenings. During the day, you know, it's the Ozarks, so you know what to expect down there. So other than that, that's all I got. So until next week, we'll see you.